It felt like within a few months, everything went from like terrible to like absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, it was disheartening. My prayer life was a lot of just help. Why aren't you healing me? A lot of questions to God, a lot of honesty, a lot of confusion, and like who God was, who I thought he was, wasn't like matching my circumstance. Like, okay, if you're good, then you're going to heal me like now. And it wasn't happening. I really did learn a lot about prayer in that season of coming before him, not pretty and perfect. There's no eloquence to any of my words. It was desperate, it was raw, it was emotional, but it was real.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Radiant Podcast. And today is very special because I am joined by the love of my life, my best friend, my wife, Natasha, and was able to convince you to come back again and share. But this one's a little different. This one we're sharing our story.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm already getting emotional thinking about it. We've been married for about 15 years, and we went through a lot of stuff in the beginning of our marriage, and a lot of hardship, a lot of craziness, and it was a lot of years. And so, even this morning, I was kind of thinking back about our story. We've shared it many times, more so when it was first happening. We haven't really shared it, for a while now, probably 6-7 years. We probably haven't really shared our full story. And man, I was like thinking through some of the things that happened, and I was like tearing up. And so I probably should have grabbed Kleenex, but there's none in here. So I'll
Use your shirt.
Yeah, I'll just snot throughout. So this is our story. So we're going to kind of talk together and kind of share through it. It's a big part of who we are. It's kind of made us who we are. And I'll just kind of, we kind of talked a little bit earlier. I'll kind of just walk through the story, kind of walk through the timeline. I'll, shorten a lot of the details, because when we used to tell the full story, it was like 2.5 hours. Yeah. It was like, because it's like years of things that were going on. And then I know you have some things that are in your heart, that you'll probably share at the end, and so I want to leave time for that. Let's just dive in, get started. So we met at a young age.
We did.
I was 20. You're a couple years older than me, so you were like 22, 23 when we got married. So the one great thing about the start of our marriage is that we knew each other, were friends, dated for a while, engaged for a while before we got married. So it was about 2 years, which in our circle of friends, that was a long time. Yeah. A lot of people were getting married, like knew each other, dated, engaged, married within and probably were pregnant within 6 months. So we dated for, over a year, engaged for about 6 months. We knew each other for some months before that. So, about 2 years of relationship beforehand. And I still look back at that time and think that honestly, that 2 years of friendship and relationship is honestly, I think what was a major part of saving, our relationship, just because there was just so much hardship in the beginning that I think that if you don't have that anchor and that foundation, I mean, you have nothing to draw on. So we were 20. I was 20. You were older. You robbed the cradle, but 20 when I got married. You were like 22, 23. Couldn't even put the honeymoon in my name. Nope. I had to go by your maiden name for the honeymoon because I wasn't old enough to do it. But it was a great wedding.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Magical day.
Beautiful weather. It's so much fun. Surrounded by family and friends. It was great. Go on our honeymoon in Mexico, and that was great, and everything was great. And then, and to be honest, it was kind of like this start of this new life. Moved into our first rental home together, and we were working in ministry together, and so it was like, wow, this is just going to be amazing. And then, within the first month of marriage, we all of a sudden, a lot of health issues started coming up for you. You know, we weren't dealing with issues like, all right, who's doing the laundry, who's doing the dishwasher, who's cooking, who's cleaning, who's paying the bills. It was like, all of a sudden, it's like, what's going on? Like, you were getting, most of these symptoms you were feeling were like, you're getting really itchy, you weren't sleeping very well, you're feeling weak, things like that. And I think we were, mostly tying that to stress. It was like, oh, we just walked through wedding season and moving and all these things and travel. And so it's like, well, let's just see what happens. And it just kind of kept like progressing, and to the point where it was like, you had these, I'll try not to be too like graphic, but you basically had like these bumps and sores like all over your body that were really itchy. And, nothing was solving it, and so because of that, you just weren't sleeping. So we start trying to like see other doctors. Now, the start of this story, again, this is like 2009. We didn't have insurance. We were young. There was no Obamacare. You didn't have to have insurance. So it was like, we were like, well, we're poor and we don't have insurance and we're young and invincible. So we're fine.
We're healthy.
Yeah, we're healthy. We don't need to do it. Like, I've been sick like 4 times in my life. So it's great. But we don't have insurance. So we're like, well, let's just go see doctors with whatever we can and, try to just do anything that doesn't cost a lot of money. And so we start seeing doctors, go to clinics. And this is probably like a few months now. And they just start, not intelligently diagnosing you with like just anything. Like, oh, maybe I remember some of these clinics, it was like a terrible but favorite memory of mine is we're at this like clinic, and I think it was like this younger doctor that I don't even know if she was actually a doctor. I think she was, I don't know. Maybe she was another patient, who knows? But like, but I remember you were describing symptoms and it was like, oh, I'm experiencing this, and this. And it's been happening for months. And, I have sensitive skin, but so I'm really cautious about what lotions I use and this and this. And so it's like, and then she like leaves and she comes back with a printout of like Google. Yeah. And it was like, I Googled your symptoms and it says this. And I'm like, wait a second, I could have done that. And I already looked that up and that's not true. And so I remember it was like, oh, like you have this issue or maybe it's this issue. And some of them were as like simple as like, oh, you just have eczema. Yeah. And some were like, you have scabies. You have bugs inside bugs in your house. So you have to like go through your entire house. I mean, that process was insane. Awful. Or maybe like there's these bacterial infections or all these, and like they were just like, it was like a shotgun blast across everything. There was no test. It was just kind of like, well, it sounds like this, try this. And like nothing was happening. So then we go to a dermatologist, and that was about another 3 months. And they were like trying a lot because we thought it must be some kind of skin reaction, and they'd use biopsies, and of course 99% of biopsies are just inconclusive. It's like, so try not to mock doctors. I actually love doctors.
We do love doctors.
I love the medical professionals. I think they're wise, and I think, but in the situations we had, it was not great.
Yeah, inconclusive,
and basically told us, hey, there's nothing else we can do. And this is like 6 months in. We're like, 6 months is a long time to like have no answers.
Newly married still.
Yeah, I'm curious, Natasha, like when you look back at that time, now this was 15 years ago. So it's like, so thank you just for sitting at this table with me. But like, I'm curious when you look back, what's going through your head at this point?
Yeah, the early days are hard to remember of sickness. I think I felt a little scared.
Yeah.
I think I got more scared progressively as the years went on.
Yeah.
Not to spoil the story, but yeah, like in the beginning, it was like, okay, something isn't right. I feel a little nervous. Also, this isn't fun, like not sleeping. I thought this was our honeymoon phase of marriage, and I'm a zombie already.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you're not sleeping.
I'm not sleeping.
Like an hour, maybe a night. Like it's
just laying there and just laying there itching all through the night.
What did that itching feel like?
It felt like a mosquito bite that like you can't reach. Like when you itch a mosquito or when you scratch a mosquito bite, eventually it just kind of goes away and it subsides. But it was like I would scratch it and it would just keep itching and like kind of like a fire element in there as well. And just constant. There was never a moment of relief. Like even going to bed, like you would hope that you would get some relief because you're falling asleep, but then not falling asleep and then itching through the night and waking up bleeding and just like the insanity of it. It was really lonely, especially in the middle of the night. Just feeling like there's nobody else here and I don't know what's happening to my body.
And you'd even use that word, like the insanity of it. And I remember that was something that you had said a lot. Like, I feel crazy. Like it's like, because there's just this constant like noise that won't turn off. And I remember a lot of the people were just like, yeah, just stop itching it, you know?
Sure.
And it's like,
so easy.
It's like when you tell a child, like, you know, to stop playing with that. And it's like, no, that's like, I want to. Like it won't stop. It's like you feel insane. And so, yeah.
So in the beginning, some fear, loneliness, some confusion, like what's happening. I don't remember feeling like super hopeless maybe in the very beginning, but as the years go on,
for sure.
Very hopeless, but
so as the
where the hopelessness started.
So as the years go on, this is 6 months in to marriage, and
we're like still trying to have fun and do things. I don't really know.
Well, I would say at this point your body had not, again, not to like jump ahead too much, but you still had like energy.
Yeah.
Like even though you're not sleeping,
for sure.
Like you said, you felt like a zombie, which was true, but multiply this now by years.
Yeah.
Over the years, it gets worse and worse.
Yep.
So, so we were still like trying to like, let's try to travel. Let's try to like, but then it was just like, we had these like ideas like, hey, let's go to this place and like have fun. And then
it would be terrible.
It's terrible because the entire time you're not sleeping.
For sure.
You're itchy. Like if it's anything above a perfect 70 degrees,
totally.
like the heat just,
I can't be there.
it's like, wow, this is terrible. I remember like we had no money and we were young and poor, and it was like our air conditioning broke in our car. And I was just like, this is the most important thing because it's heat of summer in Kansas City and it's so humid. Like I have to get this air conditioner fixed because it's like literally the worst thing for my wife right now because it's so painful.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was just me, I'd be like, I'll just roll the windows down. So, so now the dermatologist tells us, hey, there's nothing we can do. So we're like, well, we've seen quote doctors and doctors have no answers. Like what's next? And I remember there's a friend of ours, in Kansas City. Her dad was, like a chiropractor, but also specialized a lot in like homeopathic, food allergies, things like that. And I remember he sat down with us and he was like, hey, give me a shot. Like, let's just like, come to my office. This was like in another state. It was like, come to my office and let's run some tests and I'll try to make it as cheap as possible and, payment plan, all that kind of stuff, whatever. Let's see what's going on. So we go there and they do like food allergy tests and like other things. And basically like we know now why, but we didn't know why at that point. You were like, results were like, you're allergic to everything. It was like you're allergic to, soy and gluten and the protein in milk and the sugar in milk and black pepper and like all, it was just like all these like almonds and these, and it was just like, it was everything under the sun. And we're like, oh, well, okay. And then he's like, and then you have like multiple infections in your body and your blood tests and your inflammation levels are like through the roof. And we're like, okay, that's crazy. So he basically puts us on like this very restrictive, well, not us, you. I just didn't eat because it was so much money. So I was just like ate ramen noodles for like a year. I lost so much weight. But it was like a 4-day rotation restrictive diet. So it's like, okay, day 1, you have to eat like 9 small meals a day. And you need to have like only these items. It's like you can have Brussels sprouts and oregano and onions and this day 1. And then day 2, you can only have chicken breast and this day 2. And like you have to be regimented. It's like an elimination diet if you don't know what that is. And we did that for like with a bunch of natural supplements to try to help cure all
Yeah.
these infections that were going on for like 18 months.
Very long.
Long
That was
time.
hard.
That was a long time. I mean, one benefit, that's how I learned how to cook.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't buy anything.
No.
Like it was like fresh, raw ingredients. You had to we had to figure out like how to make ranch dressing
Yeah. Out of
cashews and coconuts and dates and
Yeah.
like dill. And you're like, okay, this it's not great, but at least it's something, And so it was 18 months of being as regimented as we could. And all these natural supplements and everything. And during that time, you were just getting worse and worse and worse. And most people, if they have a food allergy, you do a diet like this, and soon you start to see results because it gets out of your system. But you just were getting more itchy. You were it was multiple infections. You're getting weaker. You're not sleeping. Even it just feels like nothing is getting better. And your inflammation levels are so high. I remember I remember the story where the doctor would take your results to conventions with other doctors to be like, have you ever seen anything like this? And they're like, no, we have not. And it's it was so hopeless.
Yeah,
it was
so hopeless.
Wait, why are we the 1% right now? What is happening? So at this point, and then I want to ask your thoughts. Where's your mindset now in this point?
Mm-hmm.
This is the end of 2 years, you know, and at this point the doctor goes, hey, this is not what I thought it was. There's something way more serious going on. I mean, you're having random infections, your fingers getting infected or this, it's just what's happening? Yeah. And he's like, I can't help you anymore. You need to see someone who specializes in autoimmune or whatever, because whatever your results are going on, you need to go see a specialist. And it was, for me, it was crushing.
Yeah.
Because it was 2 years, we worked so hard and we got to the point where it was back what the dermatologist said before that, which is there's nothing we can do. So where's your heart at? Where's your mind at during this time?
Yeah. During that time, very hopeless for sure. A lot of hard, painful days. Getting up. I won't even say waking up in the morning because I wouldn't sleep. Getting up and just knowing this was going to be my day again, and the next day, and the next day. And if doctors can't figure it out, then literally this is impossible outside of the Lord intervening. And
But maybe speak into that, because I would say that we loved Jesus during that time.
For sure.
We weren't this isn't the testimony of our salvation.
We strong history with the Lord. Yeah.
We were not only occupationally in full-time ministry, we were also no, we were loving Jesus during this time. So I mean, your prayer, it's not you weren't asking for healing.
Yeah.
We were trying to be wise, trying to be good stewards. We were searching through the wisdom of man, in a positive way. Okay, let's do our part, go to doctors, but also you're praying.
Yeah.
What are those prayers like? What's your heart like when you're asking for prayer, you're asking for healing, and 2 years is going by and you're just getting worse?
Yeah. Yeah, it was disheartening. My prayer life was a lot of just help and why aren't you healing me? A lot of questions to God, a lot of honesty, a lot of punching pillows and screaming into pillows, and a lot of confusion, and who God was, who I thought he wasn't matching my circumstance. Okay, if you're good, then you're going to heal me now. And it wasn't happening. And there was such a long process to the story. But yeah, I really did learn a lot about prayer in that season of coming before him, not pretty and perfect, not with these words tied up with a pretty bow presented before him. Mm-hmm. There's no eloquence or stunningness to any of my words. It was desperate. It was raw. It was emotional. But it was real. I prayed help, and I'm that's a prayer.
Yeah.
And so I learned a lot just about being honest with the Lord in that season. He already knows. So I don't know why I would pretend. So I feel like a lot of religion was broken down during that season of like, I have to come to him a certain way in order for him to hear. And maybe there's this formula to get his attention. And I realized like, no, like I can come as I am and where I'm at in my hopelessness, in my distrust of him, in my confusion, in my questioning of him. And he was okay with it. And that's actually what he wanted.
Yeah.
So I think I learned a lot about that.
Yeah.
But it was a really, really painful time.
Yeah.
Again, lonely.
Yeah.
So lonely. I'm young, so my friends aren't going through sickness. You're not going through sickness. I don't have anyone to really talk to that can relate with what I'm going through. Again, newly married, figuring out marriage, figuring out life. And here I am, just a young adult dealing with chronic sickness.
Yeah.
So getting up out of bed every day felt so hard.
Yeah.
Knowing that was my lot.
Yeah. I mean, the loneliness thing is so real. I mean, I remember just also like, in these stories, I mean, we have, more to share, but in these stories, you can focus on the one, or you can focus on like the issue where it's like, oh, like the pain that you physically walked through and then like emotionally and spiritually walked through. And then there's the other person in the story who's like,
for sure.
Like, it was so lonely for me as well, because I'm confused, I'm frustrated, I'm scared. I don't know. But I can't really share those things with you because there's only so much you can mentally and emotionally and physically handle. And so I'm like, I don't even know how to relate to you as a husband right now. Like I was way too young. Like it was like, I didn't know how to do any of that. And I remember feeling like a caretaker. It was just like, okay, I just have to shut off my heart, because if I feel around you and I don't even know how to like healthily like feel, if I feel around you, it's going to make you feel worse. And none of that is right thinking. It was just, that was my trauma response, basically. Like, this is how I have to get past the situation. And in that moment, I didn't think it was a trauma response. Like looking back now, I'm like, oh, this was just me just responding to trauma.
Yeah.
And so I remember feeling like, I felt tricked by God. I was like, this can't be what marriage is like. Like I remember like knowing, like I'm thinking back to our premarital counseling, and the phrase from our premarital counselors was like, it's healthy to not have like expectations and going to marriage. And you're like, oh yeah, like we're not gonna like just like have sex like 4 times a day. Totally. And we're not gonna like just like go on vacations, every 2 months. And we're not gonna just like have bliss it's like, yeah, I'll have those healthy expectations that's not gonna happen. And then we get into marriage and it's like, wait, I thought it would be like just a little bit better, like a little easier. Like I had low expectations, but this is really low. And I remember thinking like, God, you tricked me. Like this was not what I thought it was going to be. Like this isn't the person that I remember like, those 2 years before. And so it was tough. It was lonely.
Yeah. Well, when you get married, you're like promising to love each other in sickness or in health. And you think that's going to be when you're like 80. You're standing up there. So like, yay, like easy. I got that. And then when you're 20 and you're promising that and you're actually having to like
10 minutes later,
follow,
it's like,
follow through on that promise.
In 20 minutes, will you still love her?
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just heavy. That's hard. Yeah. And it would be easy to feel tricked in that way.
So, we're now 2 years in. And doctors so far have had no ansers.
Clinics, dermatologists, homeopathic.
We're kind of like, what else is there? So kind of what I said at the beginning of the story, at this entire time for like 2 years, I'm trying to get on health insurance because we've been out of pocket this whole time, that's like, we could spend an entire time just talking about all of the financial. I mean, when you look at the financial miracles from the Lord, the money we had coming into our bank account and the money that was going out to pay bills, like they just don't match.
Yeah.
It was like, how are things getting paid for? People were surrounding us. The Lord was providing for us in so many ways. But it was like, okay, but I need to get on health insurance or something, but no one will cover us because of like a pre-existing condition. Again, this is before health insurance changed. So I remember like for 2 years, just filling out paperwork, sending paperwork in, not hearing anything for like weeks or months, then getting new paperwork. And it's like, oh, okay, I'll fill this out. And then all of a sudden, like we just get a card in the mail and I'm like, I don't even know what this is. And I call them and they're like, oh, your insurance was approved. You have full coverage insurance. I'm like, full coverage insurance? What does that mean? She's like, well, whatever the doctor thinks is necessary will be fully covered, no copay. I'm like, what? Like this exists? And I was like thinking of this morning when I was like thinking of this part of the story. There's like this episode. I love the show, and I know you love the show, Parks and Recreation, where like April and Andy, they're like newly married and they finally get health insurance and like they just like day one, they just go to like 12 doctors and get everything done. And then at the end they get the insurance bill and he's like, no, like we have this card, it pays for everything. And so like, it was that concept. I was like, wait, did I just show this card and everything's paid for him? And so we go to this general practitioner who we had just started seeing around this time. Like, because to go backwards for a second, the last thing this doctor said was, you need to go see a rheumatologist, or a specialist, which as everyone who's intelligent knows that you have to go to a doctor first to get referred to it. So we're seeing a normal doctor, like a real doctor and like a doctor that would like, be able to send us things. And then, he's like, this is before we have our insurance. He's like trying to diagnose, but it's just like not really, like nothing's really happening. So he's just kind of blindly like, we'll try this medicine or try this medicine and nothing is happening. So finally we go back and we're like, hey, we got this insurance now. And he's like, yeah, that's great. And it's like, let's just run, like it was like the Parks and Rec thing. Let's just run every test we can. Like, I'm just like, just run everything. So that kind of started this like journey of, okay, let's just start running a bunch of tests and scans and things that we couldn't normally pay for because they're thousands of dollars out of pocket. And then he sends us to our rheumatologist. And so we go to the rheumatologist and we're like, all right, finally we're going to get answers. And because this is what everyone thinks it is. It's probably something autoimmune. And we go to this guy and he looks like he's been a doctor for like 300 years. Like he's so old. He's so kind, but so old, but he's very smart. And he like runs like one test. It was like, and he just looks at it and he's like, this is not autoimmune. This is not lupus. It's not like whatever. He's like, I've never seen anything like that in my 300 years of being a doctor. Also,
at this point, I don't look well.
No.
I look very sick. Yeah. I feel like my skin is discolored. Yeah. My eyes obviously are sunken in,
Yeah, so
my body
years,
isn't processing food, digesting it well.
Years of not sleeping.
Yeah.
Years of, you have infections in bumps, high inflammation. You're covered in like sores and itchiness, and bumps on your skin from basically what they found out was it's just the high inflammation. It's like this. And then, so yes, you are now,
I don't look well.
What you referred to earlier in the story as a zombie. Like you're just making it through the day at this point. And you're basically, how I remember is like, you are working up so much to be able to do something for like an hour or two in the day, and then you're kind of crashed for the rest of the day. And then so this doctor's like, hey, it's not that, and you need to go to another specialist. And it was like, we basically made appointments for the next 18 months. We didn't do it for 18 months, but we made appointments. It was like, you're going to see all the specialists of every part of the body over the course of the next 18 months to figure out what it is. And at that point, it felt like we went back to zero again. Like we were like, okay, we got it. Like whatever we had, like faith rising up, it was like, you're back to zero. And so What are you feeling now in this moment?
I don't even know. I don't know how to describe it. It's so depressing. Yeah, so hopeless. I don't even know what other words to use. I think I also felt like really numb too at that point. Like just kind of, I mean, I'm not sleeping, so I feel hopeless, feel numb, feel depressed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't really know if I have any more language to add to it.
No, that's,
Yeah, every time we would put our hope in something, obviously our hope is fully in God, but we're putting our hope in this doctor. We're like, you're going to have the answer that we need. Yeah. We're going to get the diagnosis and we're going to treat it. And then life can go back to normal. But we don't even know what normal is because this is all we've known our entire marriage. So,
So we go to our first appointment. It's like an infectious disease specialist kind of a thing. And so now we're 3 years into this, 3 years of no answers.
Yeah.
3 years of no answered prayers. 3 years of getting worse and worse and worse. Hopelessness, confusion, frustration, anger, all these things are just stirring.
I can't remember, was my lymph node?
So then at this point, it's amazing what becomes normal. You were at this point, you're pretty much short of breath most of the time. You could never fully take deep breaths. You were pretty much at a 101 to 103 fever. You're just always fevering. And you actually had I remember you had your prior to just prior to this you had swollen lymph nodes. You were noticing your lymph nodes are swollen. You felt like you had something in your throat. It was I would turn and it would push against you. I remember that was scary, but they were it could be autoimmune, it could be this, but by this point now, 3 years, I remember it was the size of my fist, which is pretty, a decent sized hand. It was on your throat. Yeah. I remember this,
it felt like it happened all of a sudden. I remember being at home and I was feeling my neck and I'm I texted you and I'm this doesn't feel right. Yeah. And I don't know how it just all of a sudden.
No, it felt like within a few months, everything went from terrible to absolutely terrifying.
Yeah. It was becoming more serious for sure.
And night sweats. So you are.
I would lay out pajamas the night before knowing that I would be waking up drenched again, not sleeping, but changing my pajamas all through the night just so that I could feel comfortable. Yeah. Because again, that would make me itch more too. I'm sweating. Yeah. So night sweats, fevers, the lymph
swollen
nodes.
Lymph nodes, large lymph nodes.
Yeah.
But this became normal because doctors didn't have answers. We're well, this is just what sickness is. We're just kind of used to this. And, and I mean, there's a trauma response is you just kind of yep, this is just normal. But I mean, when I look back at it, I'm oh, I had constant fears that you were going to die. When is the day that this turns a corner and in a negative way and I lose you, and it's terrifying. I don't know how you I'm trying to remember I don't even know if you ever thought you were going to die.
I don't think I remember ever thinking I was going to die, which is very weird.
But I
honestly thought
time.
For me, the getting up every day and feeling the same thing was worse to me than death. So I'm if I have an autoimmune condition, I have to wake up tomorrow and we just learn how to kind of manage this. That's terrible if I never find answers and I just have to live like this every day. That's where the fear for me was I don't want to live this way. I can't do this. So death didn't seem, I guess, scary for me. I don't know. Yeah. Which is bizarre, but either the Lord protected me from feeling those things or it was just, I had different fears. Yeah.
No, it's true. So we go to this doctor and we kind of hobble in and you are in a fever, you look terrible, you have a tumor on your neck and we're just kind of hey, we're here for our appointment. And they literally, I think all they did was take your temperature
Yeah,
and
just, like,
breathing.
vitals.
Like it was
Yeah.
like the nurse. And then they were like, we are taking you to ICU right now.
Yeah.
And we're like, why? And they're like,
I'm fine, guys.
yeah, they're like, this is just,
I feel today's a good day.
yeah, yeah, it's like 101 instead of 103
Yeah.
fever. Like she showered today. Like,
Yeah.
this is great. And so I remember they like rushed you into ICU. And
Yeah, well, they like put me in a wheelchair and an oxygen mask, and it was just like
because they were trying to stabilize your breathing.
Yeah.
They're like, you're not getting enough oxygen.
I'm like,
in your body.
call my mom, I guess, and
Yeah.
call your mom and dad, and let them know like I'm going into ICU. It
Yeah.
was like very chaotic and crazy. Yeah.
So we were in the hospital for,
And again, we were just there for a doctor appointment, not to be admitted into the
yeah,
hospital.
like literally, yeah.
No, nothing for hospital
this is
things.
the first of like, it was like one, two, I'm like, I had them written down: a pathologist, hematologist, oncologist, infectious disease, ear, nose, throat, pulmonologist, internal medicine. It was just like, this was just one of those.
Yeah.
And so we were in the hospital for the next like 5 days.
I don't even know.
Yeah, we were.
I have no idea.
I remember because I slept on the couch in the waiting room for like 5 days.
Your body still remembers.
Yeah, I'd still have like this like thing on my back that I have to like pop. So they were just basically that first day. It was like, we just need to stabilize you.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's when I was like, oh,
Something's wrong.
this is serious. Like
Yeah.
we can't, like, somehow we've been, I don't know. Somehow we were just like used to it. And
Yeah.
which is again, like a
Very weird
trauma response. So, and what was incredible during, like, another miracle from the Lord, like what was incredible during this time was that all of those people I just mentioned, like all the specialists that we were going to spend the next like year to 2 years, like scheduling and meeting, they like all came in the room at the same time. And so they all walk in the room and they all talk to each other.
Yeah.
And they're all looking at you and they're all comparing notes. And it was like, this was a miracle because for them to all be like, oh, you think this, oh, have you thought of this, blah, blah, blah. And so at that point they decide, hey, we need to biopsy your bone marrow. We need to biopsy your lymph node. We need to like do all these things. And they, so they like cut out this, like, you know, the lymph node or part of the lymph node and run tests and everything. And then basically day 3 now in the hospital, we're laying in the hospital room. We're out of ICU now, laying in a general hospital room. It's like the middle of the night or like it was like dark. I just remember it being really dark.
I feel like it was midday.
And
I have no idea.
Our doctor, I remember his Ponaru, I think is his name,
yeah.
Dr. Ponaru.
Look him up.
Yeah, hopefully, maybe he's still alive. I don't know. Sweet man, sweet short like guy. He was just so nice. So he opens up the door, and I don't even know if he flicked on the light. I just remember it being so dark in there, and he was like, "Hey, we have the results." He says 2 things. He goes, "Hey, we have the results."
Yeah, I feel like he came over and rested his hand on my leg.
Yeah,
but
he was so
he's very sweet. Yeah.
He goes, "We have the results. It's cancer. It's stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma." And it was just this like, it was silence. And then the next thing he said was, we need to start chemo right away, but you need to look into harvesting your eggs because you're not going to be able to have kids anymore. And then he left. And then it was just like silent. And that was it was a weird time because it felt heavy. There was relief. It was like, we know the answer.
Yeah.
But this answer is like the worst answer. And so what are you feeling in that moment?
Yeah, I don't remember a lot. I remember feeling like the double blow of like the diagnosis and the kids thing as well. It's so weird to not remember, but I really don't. I think there was an element, like you said, of a kind of a sigh of relief of, well, we know.
Yeah.
I think in that moment we were confused by some of the percentages he was giving, and like,
yeah, you have like a 60% survival rate. It was something like that, and I was like, what the heck?
That feels so overwhelming. I still don't remember being like afraid, but maybe I was, and I just was so numb at that point. I don't remember. But it was definitely overwhelming. And Do you know if I cried?
You know,
I don't know if I cried.
I don't remember.
I
don't remember.
I remember like you laying next to me and being on the hospital bed. Yeah, I think we were just kind of in shock too.
Yeah.
I think there was an element of shock. Like, whoa, it was bad.
Yeah, this is really bad.
This was really bad.
So stage 4 is, it was actually it's stage 4B, which is basically the farthest it can go. And so it's in every, like when you get to stage 4 and 4B, it's like, it's not just isolated to that area that's cancer. It's in all, like in multiple parts of your body. And then, so like when they did the scan of you, this is like later on, they did like a scan, a PET scan, and it was like, it was everywhere. It was, throat, heart, liver, spleen, like it was just all over your body. And so I remember when he said that, when he said it was cancer, we know exactly what it is. You're like, you need to start treatment right away. There was this like, okay, finally we know. Yeah. Like, I know most people when they get a diagnosis of cancer, it's almost comes as a shock. Yeah. And it is scary because it is like, it comes out of nowhere. Yeah. For us, it was like, we've been looking for an answer for 3 years. Yeah. Like we've tried everything. Yep. We don't know what's going on. We just need someone to tell us something. Mm-hmm. And to know like definitively what it was like, we finally have an answer. Yeah. And then to hear, we can treat you, but you're not gonna be able to have kids. I mean, when we're like, I'm 23 or 25, it's like, it was like, this is it. This is, I guess, this is the end of our dreams of a family, like whatever that looks like, or how we thought it would look like. Yeah. And so it was like the next day we meet with the oncologist. And he begins to explain to us like, hey, this is what your cancer is. Yeah. And it was funny. I remember him saying, just so you know, you won the lottery. Yeah. And we're like, thanks. That's ridiculous. He was like, if you have any cancer, you want it to be lymphoma. If you have any lymphoma, you want it to be Hodgkin's lymphoma. If you want any Hodgkin's, you want it to be nodular sclerosis Hodgkin's lymphoma. And if you have that, you want it to be a woman, and you want it to be young and primarily on your right side and not in your bone marrow and all that stuff. He's like, that is all in your case. He's like, because you have all of these factors, it's curable. Like it's easy to treat and it's curable. And I remember, and I'm curious if you had the same thought, I remember thinking, yeah, right.
Yeah, false.
Like false. Like, thanks for your hope. But every doctor has said that to us.
They're going to figure it out.
All the years. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, just take this medicine for 3 months. Or hey, just do this one thing eat cashews only for 18 months. It's like.
Cottonseed.
Yeah,
cottonseed. That was one of my options I could eat. Like,
which was actually not.
Who eats cottonseed?
It's not a fun thing to cook with. So, and so it was, I remember right before that appointment, it was like we got home from the hospital or something, and right before we met with the oncologist, I had called a fertility clinic to see like, hey, my wife has to do chemotherapy. We were told that we need to look into harvesting eggs. What's that cost? What's the time frame of that? And they're like, well, you need minimum of 1 month, and you should plan for like 6 months because you need to, or whatever it was at this time. I remember it being like not just a few days. It was like, it was a month or 2 or 3 or 4. I was like, okay. And it was like a lot of money. And I was like, all right, sounds good. And then, so I remember asking our oncologist, hey, they said that we have to harvest eggs. Can we start treatment, in a month or 2? So we have at least a round of being able to do that. And I remember him saying like, no,
you don't have time.
You don't have, you don't have time. Yeah. Like you won't make it a month. And that was like, whoa, this is terrifying. This is really scary. And so any fear I had of losing you just went up to like 3,000%. And then any like fear I had of like our family went up 3,000%. So that was intense. Yeah. And they got us in right away for chemotherapy.
Yeah. Got my port installed.
Yeah, I got a little port installed. It was like a purple heart. It was so cute. We had it as a Christmas ornament for a little bit after that.
I don't know where it's at.
No, it's probably gone.
Must have thrown it away.
Yeah, I threw it in the ocean. So we start chemotherapy. You're like the youngest person there. And again, this is, now like 3 years into this, you're not in good shape,
No.
not healthy. And you start chemo.
Yeah, and my days up, we've kind of
Yeah.
alluded to it, but my days up to this point have been getting out of bed, moving to the couch, mustering enough strength to maybe make my bed, getting to the couch. Then at that
Making
time,
bed was a high priority.
I
Still
do
is.
care about that. Then it was me. We were still a part of a ministry, and so I would go in and lead worship for 2 hours and give it my all, and
Yeah.
come home, crash, and then
Do it again.
eat and
Yeah, we were eating lots of little
frequently,
meals.
lots of little meals.
I will say, when we found out that it wasn't food allergies,
We
there
ate
was
some
a,
Doritos.
there was a solid like couple months where we like bought every brand of Snyder's pretzels and Doritos because we're like, I could have been eating these
Yeah.
for so long. So we've definitely regulated.
Yes.
Like we eat very healthy,
We eat
but
very healthy.
it's
Yeah, so that's what my day consisted of. So it was just a lot of laying down. I don't even know what I would do on the couch, read, watch
Yeah.
a show, but reading also was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Everything was just, I don't even know what I did. I just like laid there. So yeah, that's really what my life consisted of. Very, very little energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you start chemo, and within 2 months,
Yeah.
it was literally what he had said.
Yeah.
Which
He wasn't a liar.
what he said to us was, "You have been so sick for
Yeah.
so long that you're going to be shocked how good you're
you're
going to feel on
feeling, yeah.
chemo." And that's when we're like, "All right, whatever." But literally within 2 months, almost every symptom is gone. So he had told us, "Hey, you're going to lose your hair. You're going to, stop your menstruation cycles. That's why you're not going to be able to have kids. You are probably going to be sick and throw up,
Yeah.
like all these things."
Nauseous.
It's very gentle, but you're
Yeah.
still going to have all these symptoms. But within 2 months, all of your symptoms are gone. Like you're not itching,
No.
you're not night sweats. There's no more like growths. There's no
Yeah.
tumors.
No fevers.
No fevers.
I'm sleeping.
Yeah. You have some chemo side effects, but you didn't lose all your hair.
Mhm.
You still had all your hair. Like it was thinned a little,
Less.
but it was like, yeah, a little less, but it was like you still had like your
Yeah.
hair. And then like you were running,
Yeah.
biking. You were like, it was like all of a sudden you had life inside
Yeah.
of you.
No,
It
it
was
was a night and day difference for
Yeah.
sure. I felt amazing.
so it was crazy. Like those last few months of chemo, like we're walking in and you feel so healthy
Yeah.
while we're there.
Yeah.
So you had energy. And I remember this phrase that this doctor had said, who's not a Christian. And he was like, he was going over our results. And he's like, we don't see these kinds of results from
Mhm.
people, this kind of recovery. You must have like people praying for you. Like we just don't see these results. And we're like, we've been praying for a while. We have a lot of
Yeah,
friends, a lot of people who've been praying.
Yeah.
And so just to see like even the blend of the Lord's miracle
Yeah.
through like the power of like medicine and all that stuff, like the Lord using that to bring healing. Like it wasn't like you woke up and one day you were like, oh, I'm healed. It
Yeah.
was like this long
Progression,
process.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
you are feeling better. And we end treatment.
Yeah. We did 6 months.
Yeah, 6 months of treatment. So we're now 3.5 years, into this.
So crazy.
Did like their kind of final scan and test, and we got a phone call October 19th, 2012, just 2 days after our anniversary.
Mhm.
Got a phone call, and they were just like, "Hey, we got your results, and you're clear of all nodular sclerosis, and blah blah." And we like hung up the phone, and we're like, "Wait, what does that mean?" Like, it's we remember we called them back.
Yeah.
Can you tell us? This is like
No
she's
cancer?
no cancer, and they're like, "Yeah, no cancer. You're good to go." We hung up the phone, and it was just like silence.
Yeah.
We're just staring at each other in a little apartment in Kansas City, just
Yeah.
staring at each other, like now what?
Yeah.
Like, what do we do? This has been so many years of this.
So consuming.
So we went to Cheesecake Factory.
As you do when you become cancer-free.
Cheesecake Factory and ate free bread and got a slice of cheesecake. And we just sat there and talked to, I don't even know how much we talked, but I remember it was like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
Because for so many years, we were just surviving.
Yeah.
It didn't even feel like we were husband and wife.
No, we're just in survival mode.
We're just trying to get through it. And now it was like, wait, we have our whole life ahead of us now.
Yeah.
Now it's been years. We've lost a lot of years, but we've also gained we've gained a lot too.
For sure.
We are different people.
Yeah.
You know, when you walk through, and we can talk about this more in a second, but when you walk through those things, like it changes you.
Yeah.
So, it was crazy. Like soon after, and I'm talking, when I say soon, I mean like within months, I feel like after our last chemo treatment, our health insurance that we had, like our magic gold card changed. And it was no longer full coverage. It was like this, it all changed. We would have had to, it's like what a normal insurance play would be. We literally had like this magic gold card just for those, like that time. And so, I mean, I'm talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of bills that we saw that we paid nothing for. And I remember there was this like moment too, just to show the kindness of the Lord, like where we were all of a sudden, like we were getting bills from your cancer treatment center, the chemo center. And it was like, you know, for a good amount of money coming in. And it was like saying like, hey, you owe this. And I'm like, oh man, I thought our insurance covered this. And I remember calling them. I was like, hey, I'm getting these bills. She goes, oh, you are? And then I was like, yeah, is this not being covered anymore? Like, am I supposed to pay these? She goes, oh, don't worry about it. I have your name written on a Post-it note. Just your first name. I have your first name written on a Post-it note on my computer. Any bill that comes in, we're just writing it off for you. So it was like, even the doctors, even the hospital was like, hey, we're covering everything, which was like, please God, don't let that Post-it note ever fall. Like how, like this is insane. That's what's happening. Yeah. And so so this is the financial provision from the Lord during all of that. Like not only did he walk us through that, he also took care of everything. And then we go in after, they ran some like just simple blood tests for you to say, hey, like, because during this time you actually never stopped having your period. So like that was one thing they said that would stop and we wouldn't have kids, but you end up having a period the whole time, which was, I don't know if that was a blessing or a curse for you, but so they run a test and they're like, hey, from what we see, there's nothing that says that you can't have kids. Now, they advise us wait 6 months, it was like 18 months. Wait like because we're like 3-ish years in. Wait 18 months, let everything clear out of your system. Like, and before you start having kids, because you don't want to be pregnant with like chemotherapy still in your system. And so we had waited like, I think 18 to 2 years, you know? And that's when they took that test and they're like, you seem healthy, like you can try. So we tried and got pregnant right away. Yeah. And we had Jackson and perfect pregnancy, perfect kid, you know, it's, you know, we got, he's 9, so he likes to argue, but was completely healthy and it was a miracle, you know, and knowing that we may never have kids. And then some years after that, we were like, well, maybe it was a fluke. Let's try one more time. And tried and had Nora, and who's, you know, our little girl, and also completely healthy, amazing kids, intelligent, love Jesus, and just to see just the kindness and the miracle of the Lord through all of that. And so, yeah, it's pretty wild.
What a story.
It's pretty wild. Yeah. So, you know, I kind of shared some things in there, but I'm curious your thoughts, Natasha, just as we're talking about how that story ended, you know, of years of hopelessness, years of confusion, years of pain, doubt. But we did talk about like there was things we lost a lot. And it was like 5 years. And it didn't really feel like we had a normal life until like, 5 years into our marriage, and because that like year or two right after chemo, it was like trying to like, we were different people.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had to like rediscover who we were.
Sure.
You walk through trauma for so many years, you don't come out you don't come out unscathed. Like, so we spent a year or two just relearning who we were. And, so we lost years. We married for 15 years. So it was like that first third of our marriage was that, is that, yeah, third. And, but we gained a lot too in our relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
How we look at our finances, how we look at our relationship, our communication, how we look at our children, how we look at our marriage, how we look at other people in pain, how we look at other people in sickness, how we look at our lives and our calling, just like everything has changed. And so I'm just curious your thoughts, if you have anything you want to share, but in any of that.
Yeah, I think that the Lord really does write beautiful stories, and there is so much pain in the story, but then there's so much redemption and so much fruit that has come from it. I wouldn't want to do it again at all, ever. But I feel like what I've gained is invaluable. I think there was a fellowship with the Lord that I've never had since, just such an intense relationship and season with him. Like I had no other option. Like I could either run to him or run from him, and I knew I wasn't going to run from him. And I really did feel like he was just inviting me, like every season is an invitation to just find him in that place, whatever that place is. And that place was sickness and pain. And I did find him. I found him as the high priest who's familiar with suffering. I think the verse where he says he lives to intercede. And realizing that he was praying with me and that he was familiar with what I was going through because it was so lonely, and finding him as a friend in that season was invaluable. I think learning, like we talked about earlier, learning to bring honesty into conversation, taking my pain, turning it into conversation, not just shutting down. Again, some days I was shutting down, but still just talking and telling him I'm shutting down. And that's prayer. And I'm bringing my complaints, and even my sighing is like heard by him and is prayer and counted before him. And so I just learned to talk to him in a different way. And then, I mean, between us, it was the beauty of like, we had to like trust the Lord together in such an intense way that most people don't have to. We learn to find joy in simple things, and which is carried over even into like parenthood, and finding the Lord in the little things, and not just the big. And so just the friendship that we have, and our ability to choose joy and have fun, even in like walking into chemotherapy and playing games and having fun. Just those things translate over into normal life after. And and then the blessing of children, and so much redemption, so much we learned. But I mean, it came at a great cost, physically, emotionally.
You started off by saying like, I would never want to go through that again, or wish, and I remember feeling very similarly of, I wouldn't wish what we went through on my
No.
like worst enemy.
No.
And honestly, if the Lord, like, if there was a way to go back in time and if he was like, hey, do you want to go down this path again? I'd probably be like, not really.
Yeah.
Can I do something different? Like
sure.
it was so hard,
Yeah.
so painful. But I am forever grateful
Yeah.
for that season because I learned how to trust the Lord. I learned what it meant to have a relationship with the Lord. And I honestly, I mean, I said in the very beginning when I gained a best friend, like, yeah, that, our relationship, it was hell or high water for us. It was like, we have to do this. And there's things that I've learned about faithfulness and trust and stability and that I don't think I ever would have learned. The people who know me now, they know someone, they know me because, or the things they know of me is because of what I went through.
Yeah.
And same with you. And we are, we're different people because of that. And I know I've said that before, but I wouldn't want to do it again. I wouldn't want to do it again, but I actually am grateful for that pain.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that time, for sure.
I think we also learned like the beauty of like coming back to truth and like, because it really doesn't add up. Like our story doesn't add up to God being good or God being faithful until the end.
Yeah.
And so I think during those years I went up and like declared truth. I sang to the Lord and I think again with still honesty. And I think that kept my heart in such a safe place and your heart in such a safe place of like coming back and remembering again, like, no, you are who you say you are, but I don't see it right now. And I think all of us have that story somewhere in our lives of where it just doesn't add up and it doesn't match what we've read about him or heard about him or experienced about him. And it's like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, I don't understand. Like, you said that you wouldn't leave me alone, but I feel more lonely than I've ever felt in my entire life. Like you said that you are a healer, but you're not healing me. Like you said that you were going to provide in this way and you're not. So like, who are you? And there's something so beautiful about having to wrestle through those things. If you don't wrestle through it, you're not convinced. And so I think we came out on the other side more convinced of his goodness and of his faithfulness because we had to face what our circumstances and face what we were feeling and not letting that dictate who he is. Yeah. So
I know that you've, through the years, I mean, now we're like, we're 10 years out of that season or maybe more now. Yeah. You've had the opportunity to sit down with people who are going through pain, suffering, confusion. What do you say to them? Yeah. Like if someone's listening to this right now, watching this right now, and they're like, I am going through that. Like I have no answers. I'm hopeless. Yeah. God's not healing me. No, I'm lonely. No one can help me. Like this is my life. Like, what do you say to them?
Yeah. I think when I sit down with someone, they usually are like comparing their story to my story. And I'm like, pain is pain, no matter what it is. Just because I had cancer doesn't mean I have more pain than what you're walking through. I have so much compassion in moments like those, just sitting with people in pain. And a few things come to mind. I think I immediately want to tell them that they're doing a good job. That the Lord is pleased with how they're walking this out. And because there is an element of like, maybe it's religion, I don't know what it is, but there's this, like, we want to walk out our trials perfectly. Or maybe it's my personality, just like perfectionism and like wanting to do the best and wanting to do it the right way. And walking out trials, there's not a perfect way to to do it, where the Lord finally deems you successful. And so I remember wanting to hear that so much during that season. Like, you're doing a good job. Like, I'm so sorry, and you're doing a good job, and the Lord's so pleased, and of how you're looking to him. And so I feel like that's like one of the main things I would say. I would also say, like, find him in ways that you can. And again, it might not look the same in other seasons. Maybe you're not studying your Bible or journaling daily, but say help, pray help, do what you can to keep reaching for him, even if it feels small and insignificant. It's not. Like, it's what's keeping you. Like, you're holding on to the hem of his garment. Like, it really is those simple things. And it might not feel heroic or powerful, but it really is. And so, I think those things, I think I encourage people to not go super internal and trying to figure out what you did wrong that caused this thing to happen to you. There's a lot of, obviously, theology there, and I don't understand how it all works. Like, the Lord allows trials, and I don't understand, but I think when I walked through pain, people would tell me, like, you have unconfessed sin or these things. And I'm like, oh, I'm sure I do. Like, but I don't think that's like what's
the
causing.
Lord's not punishing you.
There's not a punishment element to the Father. And so I think I try to encourage people to know that he's kind and compassionate, and this isn't a punishment for something you did. So I feel like those are the things that come to mind when I sit with someone in pain. And another like non-spiritual thing, which actually is spiritual, but like, have fun, like do the things that keep your heart as happy as it can be, like not in like a weird way, but like go out to dinner, like buy a candle, like do those things that bring joy, like find those small things that bring you joy, to sustain you as you like walk through pain. And on days where you feel hopeless, like get somebody to speak hope over you and encourage you. And it's not wrong to feel hopeless, and it's not wrong to be sad and disappointed and disillusioned and confused, but also let someone in that can be that voice to you. Like have a friend or whatever, a spouse that can do that for you, because it is hard to do that for yourself when you're feeling so numb and shut down.
And you said it earlier, it's like when you said it's not wrong to feel sad, disillusioned, disappointed, like the Lord's not waiting for you to come to him when you're done feeling those things. Like
oh my goodness.
He wants you in those moments. He's saying, no matter your emotion, no matter your thoughts towards me, like come to me, you know, and
he's very settled in who he is and confident in who he is, and our pain and confusion doesn't throw him off. And so it's like, he already knows, just say it to him. And that's actually what's going to keep your heart without offense and without bitterness, because of course you're going to be like, the only right response is to be offended and bitter because he didn't come through the way you thought he was going to, or the way that he said he would, in quotes. But I think that's such a natural response to turn to those things. But if you're honest, that's what I feel like, that's the key, and that's the power, the antidote to like that bitterness and that offense. Because you're just being truthful with where you are. If you pretend there's nothing to fix. So
I think I would add to that, you know, because I've actually met with some, mostly husbands, who are walking through something with their wife, you know, and there's this like, you know, most of the time you're like, I don't know how to fix this, you know, and that's what I felt. It was like, I want to fix this, but I can't fix this. And you feel helpless. You feel useless. And then you're confused. There's fear. Like you had said, you didn't really feel fear of dying, but I literally was like, that's all I felt, was that you were going to die. And I even remember like, even like past that time,
Yeah.
that was fears that I still had. Like, are you going to get in a car accident? Are you going to be sick with this? Like, there was just like, there was a fear I had to work through, because for so many years I was like, she's going to die at any point. So there's fear, there's hopelessness, there's like you feel helpless. And so those like, my thing that I would say to people who are walking with somebody who is in that kind of physical pain is like, hey, those are real emotions. Like those are valid things to feel. Like, don't dismiss them. Like, you actually don't shove them down, because you actually have to deal with those things. But they might not be your wife that you have to deal with those things.
Yeah.
Like, because right now you might not be able to process that with her, because she literally can't do it. But you have to find like a trusted brother. Like, you have to find someone that you can walk like and share those things with. To, like you said, like, find that friend that can encourage you in those moments. And you want to be like linked with your spouse. Like, you want to share those things.
Yeah.
But there's times where when you're sharing, like, I'm afraid you're gonna die, like, that might not be the thing to say when you're like going through that. So it's like, find a brother, find someone that you can like, hey, I've like a lot of fear. Can you just help me? Like, speak some truth over me, like, help me process this. I need to say this out loud so it gets out of my head. So don't be alone. Like, that would be the thing. Sure. Like, it's like what you said, like that. Don't try to fix it. Don't be alone. And like, in your emotions, like, the pain that you feel is actually a real pain as well. I mean, that was when you said people that I meet with, or that you meet with, they would like compare their suffering to yours. Like, that was something that I did. Like, I was like, well, whatever I'm feeling, it's not what she's going through, so it must not be valid enough. So I would just try to dismiss it, but then it would just keep festering. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's probably it. I think we can probably stop there, but I think we shared a lot. It's a long story. Yeah. It's a terrible, beautiful story. Crazy. I'm thankful that we got to do it together. Yeah. I love you. Thankful for you. Thankful for our family. Yeah. Thankful for the Lord and His miracle and His faithfulness in us. So thank you for letting that Band-Aid come off a little bit and again, re-experiencing that pain with us. So, all right. Well, we hope you enjoyed this conversation on the Radiant Podcast. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you next week.